U.S. Representative Beto O'Rourke, who joins us live in studio to talk about his Harris County Town Hall tonight, the Texas Legislature, the Democratic Party's future, and more. I'm Frank Billingsley.
And as we talk with a former U.S. Representative, we want to hear from you. Send us your comments or your questions by giving us a call or texting us at 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. I'm Celeste Diaz-Sherman.
And I'm Ernie Manouse. Plus, we'll bring you the return of my award-winning series, InnerVIEWS, with Grammy Award-winning soprano Ana María Martínez ahead of her performance this Saturday at the Hobby Center. The full interview will be available this afternoon at Houston Public Media's YouTube channel.
Hello Houston is made possible in part by founding sponsors John Bradshaw and Kathy Sanders, and by gifts from listeners like you.
Live from NPR News, I'm Lakshmi Singh. Lawyers from the Trump administration and Harvard are in court over the president's bid to prevent the university from enrolling international students. We've learned a federal judge extended a temporary order blocking the administration. NPR's Windsor Johnson reports some critics say the move could undercut the Ivy League school's global competitiveness and its financial stability.
International students make up more than a quarter of Harvard University's student body. Miriam Feldblum is the CEO of the President's Alliance on Higher Education and Immigration. She says the pause in student visa interviews needs to be reversed immediately.
What's clear is that international students are essential to the global and domestic talent pipeline that colleges and universities, including Harvard, are creating.
Harvard's hardly alone. Illinois Tech and Carnegie Mellon have the highest rates of international students, and without tuition, administrators warn many colleges and universities could face significant budget shortfalls. Windsor Johnston, NPR News, Washington.
The U.S. Court of International Trades delivered a setback to President Trump's use of sweeping tariffs to force other countries to renegotiate trade deals with the U.S. NPR's Scott Horsley reports the stakes are enormous.
A dozen states and 5 businesses challenged the president's authority to unilaterally levy those taxes, and last night, a specialized trade court handed those challengers a decisive victory. The unanimous 3-judge panel ruled that under the Constitution, it's Congress that has exclusive power to regulate trade and impose tariffs.
NPR's Scott Horsley, the administration says it will appeal. Russia is calling for another round of peace talks with Ukraine next week in Istanbul, Turkey. The proposal comes as President Trump has increased his criticism of Russia over a recent wave of attacks on Ukraine. From Moscow, NPR's Charles Maines has the latest.
Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said Moscow would present a written memorandum with proposals for a future peace accord and hoped Ukraine would embrace the negotiations. The Russian call to resume negotiations came as Trump suggested he would back off threats of new sanctions on Moscow if it undermined the prospects of a peace deal. Yet in calling for the latest talks, Lavrov repeated Moscow's demands that any agreement address the root causes of the conflict, a term widely interpreted as a Kremlin demand for influence over Ukraine's future. Charles Maines, NPR News, Moscow.
Israel says it's expanding settlements in the West Bank. It plans to create 22 new outposts in the occupied Palestinian territory. Most countries recognize such settlements as illegal under international law, not Israel. Defense Minister Israel Katz says his government's making a strategic move to protect Israeli security by preventing the establishment of a Palestinian state. It's NPR News.
Live from News 88.7 in Houston, I'm Gabrielle Dawkins. The DEA in Houston is getting the word out about a new, deadly class of opioids. News 88.7's Tom Perumian has the latest on nitazene.
This new opioid is said to be 25 times more powerful than fentanyl. DEA Special Agent William Kimball says a 2-pronged investigation is underway to find those selling, making, and importing deadly nitazene.
We're investigating the drug poisoning deaths with our state and local partners, and we really want to hold those accountable that are taking lives. From an international drug trafficking perspective, we're looking at who's purchasing it locally, how it's getting in. We're using a variety of investigative techniques, and who is it regionally and locally that's manufacturing these types of tablets.
Agent Campbell says nitazenes are turning up in Houston and is being manufactured to resemble prescription pills. 15 deaths locally are attributed to nitazene poisoning. The victims ranged from 17 to 59. I'm Tom Perumian, News 88.7.
The city of Houston faces a new challenge in its attempts to settle a lawsuit over spending on streets and drainage. The case goes back to 2019, when 2 engineers sued the city, arguing it had shortchanged a voter-approved special fund for road and drainage projects. Mayor John Whitmire reached a settlement with the plaintiffs this year to gradually ramp up the contribution to the fund over the next 3 years in an effort to close a daunting budget deficit. But nonprofit West Street Recovery took legal action Tuesday, arguing against that agreement. Co-director Ben Hirsch says the city should have considered its obligations before approving an $832 million contract with the police union.
The city is in a tough fiscal position, but how come the mayor didn't bring up those major fiscal constraints when he was talking about the police contract? But when it's about drainage approved by voters, it's like top of mind.
A denial of the settlement would cost nearly $200 million over the next year. It's 82 degrees. I'm Gabrielle Dawkins, News 88.7.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Indeed, committed to giving job listings increased visibility with relevant candidates through its sponsored jobs feature. Learn more at Indeed.com/NPR. And the listeners who support this NPR station.
Live from the University of Houston, it's Hello Houston, an open forum on today's biggest stories affecting Houston and beyond. Call now, 713-440-8870, or let us know your thoughts on today's topics by emailing us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now here's your host for Hello Houston, Ernie Manouse, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
Hello, Houston.
Hello, Houston. There. We are here. We have got a full show today, and so we're going to jump right in and get this going, because former Texas Congressman Beto O'Rourke will be holding a town hall at the Humble Civic Center tonight at 6 p.m. He recently held 8 town halls across the state, and nearly all of them in Republican congressional districts, from Amarillo, Wichita Falls, and Waco to Garland and Fort Bend County. To tell us why he's holding these town halls and to share his thoughts on what's happening in the state and federal legislature, Beto O'Rourke is here with us. Welcome to Hello Houston.
Bienvenido.
Good morning. It's awesome to be with you all. Thanks for having me in.
I want to remind everyone that you are welcome to call in with your questions or text us at 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. Well, okay, I guess the first question from what we're saying, why are you holding these town halls?
You know, just on a personal level, I need this. I need to be with people right now. There is a lot of change happening in this country very quickly. There are a lot of people who are being hurt by the changes that are taking place in this country. You know, proposed Medicaid cuts to the VA. And from 6 years on the Veterans Affairs Committee in Congress, I know how hard it already is for a veteran to get their service-connected disability claim resolved with the VA, or to see a behavioral health specialist for their PTSD. You cut 83,000 jobs, most of them held by veterans, and it's going to hurt people, and nowhere more so than the greater Houston area, which has such an extraordinary legacy of service to country. So how do we meet this moment? The attacks on people, on communities, and on our country, our Constitution, and the rule of law. I don't know anything that is more effective than coming together, and coming together regardless of differences or divisions. You know, if you're a Republican and you voted for Donald Trump, I hope we're going to see you tonight in Humble at the Civic Center at 6 p.m. If you're a Democrat, you're welcome as well. Independents, voters, non-voters, fifth-generation Texans, folks who just arrived in the most diverse city in America, Houston, Texas, 5 days ago. All of you are welcome. And I'm just convinced that if we come together, we're going to figure out how to overcome these challenges, and America will be better for it.
Before we get into all the details that we want to talk to about it, I want to stay right with where you're at there and say, such a large number of people, okay, maybe not an honest majority voted for Trump, but a lot of people voted for Trump. And within those that voted for him, he still has a lot of support. The opposite side, the outside of it, says, look at all the trouble that's happening. Look at what's going on. We shouldn't be surprised. He said this was going to happen, yet he still holds on to support. From the time you've spent with all of this, how do you balance that? How do you understand what's happening in the minds of Americans today?
America, by and large, really wanted and really needs change. And for many, and a majority of those who voted in 2024, of the two options, one represented change more than the other. Now, that change might not appeal to them in every single way. I may not like the family separation, the kids in cages, the divisive racist language, but for whatever reason, this country's not working for me. I can't afford to see a doctor. I'm making $7.25 an hour working 3 jobs in Houston, or I'm a full-time school teacher who has to work an additional job just to make ends meet for the privilege of teaching your kids, or I do everything by the book, by the rule, and I still can't get ahead. I need change. I need something different. And Trump was offering that. And he's delivering in many ways, just not in the ways that people really need or expected or were hoping for. I mean, these tariffs are devastating economically. Prices are not coming down quickly enough. He is turning his back on alliances that our fathers and grandfathers won in the Second World War through many times their own lives. He's siding with tyrants and dictators over democracies and free people. This is not what people wanted. So this is an opportunity not just for the Democratic Party, but for people who still want that change to stand up and be counted. And we can't do it in 2026 if we're not ready to do it right now in 2025. So I agree with you that there's a lot of appeal, and I understand the reasons why. And I sure as hell hope that Democrats do not judge a single person who voted for Trump, because people had very legitimate, valid reasons for doing that. We have to respond by offering that dramatic, bold, innovative change that people are looking for, and the field is open.
You know, you keep saying the word change. I would say he offered hope. And I think that's very different than change, because it comes with, it might work out, it might not. But as long as you have hope, we hope the war ends. We hope prices come down. We hope that we solve diseases. We hope. And he offered that. And I think people said, you know what? The other candidate, they're just going with whatever. Kamala's just going with whatever's there. Whereas Trump, whether they believed he could do it or not, and I think that's why he's being forgiven on so many levels. Like, well, he offered us hope, and sometimes it just doesn't work out. You have a flu with the chickens, and you just don't get those egg prices down like you hoped to. Bill Clinton won on I'm from a town called Hope. I think hope is a huge part of the American lexicon. And more than I'm going to change things, here's what I hope is going to happen.
What do we remember from Barack Obama's 2008 campaign? You know, hope and change.
Right.
Those are perennial, eternal issues that we should be running on. And you can't just say them. And in fact, the trick in this kind of politics is you have to offer people that hope and offer people that change, regardless of what you say. They have to see it, they have to believe it, and they have to feel it, to the excellent point that you're making right now. And in addition, if you feel like you've been screwed and let down by this country, despite playing by the rules and doing everything by the book, then you might ask yourself, what do I have to lose by allowing myself to hope with someone different? And then add to that this incredibly corporate, sterile, safe political environment where nobody speaks out of line, everybody reads everything they say. And here comes Trump, bull in a china shop, just blowing through all of that political correctness and safe speech, saying what's literally on his mind, as crazy as it is. We're going to invade Greenland. We're going to take over Canada as the 51st state. We're going to deport people without due process, including U.S. citizens, kids with cancer without their medications. I mean, it's just a blizzard of bizarre behavior that is incredibly captivating and dramatic, and in some ways the antidote to a politics that hasn't worked. For us on the other side of this, what's our answer going to be? If it's more of the same, we're going to lose in 2026 and 2028. If we offer hope, real hope, that is embodied in something that feels and looks different, that change, then we've got a shot.
I just want to remind folks, too, that we do invite Republicans to join us here on the program and to share their side of the story, too. Beto O'Rourke accepted our invitation and joins us today.
And so, Beto, you are from El Paso. I am from South Texas. We understand. We were talking about how there are so many parallels. Border cities, Starr County had been for 100 years, had voted Democrat. In South Texas, we saw major changes and shift which usually Democratic Party had a hold on for years. And in the last 7 to 8 years, we have seen this shift happen where they voted for President Trump, a county that had been voting for Democrats for 100 years. What happened and what is happening? What's going to happen next?
This is an excellent question because these counties, Hidalgo County, El Paso County, Maverick County, they had a ringside seat to the cruelty of the first Trump administration, the kids in cages, the family separation, the invocation of violence. There's an invasion of animals who are coming to rape and to kill us. It inspired somebody from Allen, Texas to drive 600 miles to El Paso and slaughter 23 people, claiming he was repelling the invasion of Hispanics who were taking over this country. After that happened, Trump's share of the vote in El Paso County actually increased. I think that has more to do with Democrats and the failing within my party than it has to do with Trump. We have experienced, as you know from your home in Brownsville, unprecedented levels of migration, not controlled, not regulated, people who we don't know their background, their identity, or where they came from or what they're going to do in this country. And I remember being in Eagle Pass, and this woman, lifelong Democrat, stops me. She said, Beto, how would you feel if 20 strangers were tromping through your backyard at 2 a.m. in the morning? And I've got 3 kids at home. Man, that would scare me as well. And she says, and how does it feel when the president doesn't show up or people don't acknowledge our concerns? They say, this is just a Republican talking point. No, it's not. This is my life, and you better damn well respond to it. And again, I think one party seemed to be taking it seriously, and the other party was explaining it away. So if we don't show up and listen to people and then don't try to explain away their legitimate concerns and fears, then we have a chance of earning their trust. If we fail to do that, you will continue to see the erosion of support for Democrats in border counties like mine and like the one that you are from. And we will be an irrelevant party in the state of Texas and nationally before long, because this state, as the population continues to shift and move to Texas, will hold even more electoral college voting power. And if the Democratic nominee in 2032, when we have 44 electoral college votes, can't win Texas, they're not going to the White House. They can win all the blue wall states, and they'll still lose the highest position in the land. Texas matters more than anywhere. And these counties that you're talking about, Celeste, that's the future.
But do you think that Texas is still an investable property for Democrats? I mean, because as we continue to see, Colin Allred ran against Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz won. We're continuing to see this pattern where is Texas, again, still an investable property for Democrats?
I think Houston and Harris County offer us the answer on this. Prior to 2018, it was kind of a toss-up county. 10 years before that, it was reliably red. In 2018, because of the campaign that so many of us ran, we really ran the tables on judgeships, on county commissioners' races, on the county judges' race, on congressional races, Lizzie Panel Fletcher. And then in my race against Ted Cruz, Houston's hometown senator, we got within 2.5 points, won more votes than any Democrat and in history, and won more of the major urban areas and surrounding counties since LBJ in '64. So the response to that from Republicans in power, however, was to change the rules of voting and to make this the toughest state in the nation in which to register and cast a ballot. It just means that those of us who want to overcome this have to work that much harder. And we also have to acknowledge, Celeste, some of the truths that you laid out about our failure to address real legitimate issues that people are going through, including in these border counties.
It's ironic to me that when Ann Richards beat Clayton Williams, it was mostly because Clayton Williams, who is a Republican, was not a gentleman. The comments he made about the weather, he just enjoyed he wouldn't shake her hand at a dinner. And I think people almost said, you know what, I'm not going to vote for someone who's not at least polite. Well, all that has gone out the window. So you can't run on being a nice guy, and you're a nice guy. So if you're going to run for office, and I don't know if you're here today as an observer or
you can make
or
an
a
announcement.
candidate.
You can make an announcement, Beto.
If you want to
make
have
an
some
announcement.
breaking news is
Right.
we love breaking news here at HPM. But how does one run in Texas as a nice guy and who goes and visits all the counties, speaks all the languages, is clearly fun to be around? Where's your MO?
Yeah, less about me, but more to the spirit of your question. I don't know if the choice is between nice and mean. I think the choice is between fight or surrender, strength or weakness. And I really see people in America, and maybe this has always been the case, responding to strength. And for many, they saw that in Donald Trump. For many, they saw that in Republican candidates and office holders across the state of Texas. I often see that in the form of cruelty and meanness. But these folks know what they believe, and they will go to the mat for it. I see Democrats too often calculating, working with focus groups and consultants and pollsters and data analysts, and let me calibrate this message just right. We'll grow it in a lab and we'll send it out there, and that's going to win the deal. That doesn't look strong. That doesn't feel like what I need right now. And in our party, you see people like Chuck Schumer, the Democratic leader in the Senate, surrendering to Elon Musk and Donald Trump on the latest government funding bill, this continuing resolution that basically was a grab bag for the administration to do whatever they wanted at a time that they're undermining the Constitution, rule of law, running roughshod over the criminal code with the most corruption, the greatest corruption we have ever seen. We want to fight her in that position. We want to fight her at every place on the ballot. That, I think, is the answer to your question. I think you can still be civil. I think you can still engage with people. And we reach out to the Harris County Republican Party and invite their members to come to the meeting tonight, because Democrats do not have a monopoly on the truth or good ideas or solutions right now. And I believe if we're going to overcome Trump, it's going to require a united front and the broadest possible coalition. So I can't talk down or judge or, to your point, be mean to people and expect to win their trust, either as a candidate or somebody who's trying to organize across the state. But we do need to show strength, and we do need to fight.
I want to go back to 2022. And at that point, nationally, a lot of people were looking at the state thinking, could it switch? Could this go blue? Could we at least be purple? And people had a lot of hope there that there's that hope word again, was going to happen. And then if I'm remembering correctly, the margin of loss was about 12 points. And you look at that and you're like, there's no hope for this state leaving being red. It's if Beto couldn't do it with the attention, why do you believe there is hope now for that shift to happen?
Yeah, I mean, I was one of those folks who was like, I looked at the landscape and I saw, the most obscene abortion ban in America, just to show you just how bad this was. They studied this in 19 months after Greg Abbott signed it, after he told us he was going to eliminate rape, because there's no exception for rape, incest, or the life of the mother in the abortion bill. 26,000 Texas women and girls were forced by that law to carry the child of their rapist. When you look at a power outage in the energy capital of the world that cost perhaps up to 700 Texans their very lives, including an 11-year-old boy in Conroe, Texas, when you see these attacks on public schools and public educators, somebody's got to stand up and fight for this. And somebody's got to overcome this. And I thought, we ran an extraordinary campaign in 18. Let's do this again in 22. Let's bring the band back together. Let's go to every county and let's win this thing. But we were also swimming upstream. The president of our party was in power. He was an extraordinarily poor communicator. He wasn't sharing the message of his accomplishments. Certainly wasn't coming to Texas. I raised and spent $80 million. Greg Abbott raised and spent $140 million. Mm-hmm. And that is not to speak of what Ken Paxton spent, what Dan Patrick spent, what other Republicans spent. So very, very tough environment. And then last thing, and this is something that I've learned from that, you can't have a Wendy Davis or a Colin Allred or a Beto O'Rourke punch through on their own. You need every position on that ballot filled with a Democrat from Amarillo to Nacogdoches. They may not win those races, but they're going to draw in more voters in their local communities. And statewide, you really need a ticket. You need a strong candidate at governor, at senator, at lieutenant governor, at attorney general, at land commissioner, at railroad commissioner, at agriculture commissioner. And Democrats just have not put that together, except when Ann Richards and that team, if you go back to that generation, they really understood it. We've got to run like that. If we don't, I think even though the wind might be at our back in 26, it's going to be very, very hard.
You made a statement, if I'm quoting you correctly, just a few minutes ago, you said overcome Trump. Can that be enough to fight against what you see as wrong out there? Or is there more belief in you've got to have a plan, you've got to have it, and forget about Trump, forget about that, what's going on there. You need to talk on just your message. Is that the wrong way to approach it now?
No, I think you're absolutely right. It is not enough to be against somebody. That is never going to move the needle sufficient for victory. You have to offer people hope. We keep talking about this, but what is hope? It is a vision for how your life will be better if this candidate wins. The fact that you'll be able to afford to see a doctor, that your school is going to be fully funded, that if you're an educator, you don't have to work that second or third job to make ends meet. If you're a veteran, you can get in and out of the VA the same day that you request that appointment, and this country is going to fulfill its end of the bargain, that we're going to treat each other. I know that this is a crazy idea with the civility and the decency and respect that we deserve as Texans and human beings. That, for me, is a super hopeful message. That's the state that I want to live in. I've got an 18, a 16, and a 14-year-old at home. That's the state I want them to grow up in and be proud of. And that's the hope that I hold on to. Whether I'm a candidate, whether I'm supporting candidates, that's what I'm fighting for. So great point. It cannot be just about Trump. It can't just be about Ken Paxton, John Cornyn, or Ted Cruz. It has to be about all of us and our future.
But, Beto, I want to go back to that, quote unquote, fighting against Trump. And it has to be, don't you think it has to be more than hope? Because people are clearly voting on more conservative policy. Yeah. And so when we're looking at what people are voting on, and not just sound bites of hope and change. We've heard hope. We've heard change. People are done. I think people voted for Trump to send a very clear message to the Democrat Party. We believe in conservative values. In South Texas, I know certain representatives won based on family, God, and country. What is the messaging that Democrats are sending to those people that let them know that it's not just about hope? It's not just about change. We are going to do things. What are you all going to do to show people that want conservative policy?
Great question. So give you an example, and specific to South Texas. As you probably know, there is no full-service VA hospital in South Texas. If we're about country, if we're about patriotism, if we're about honoring the service and sacrifice of those who've given us our freedom, you better invest in a VA hospital there so that those veterans don't have to drive to San Antonio or Houston to receive the care that we owe them and that they earn. That is a concrete example of what we can point to. If I care about the quality of life of people in South Texas, why is there not a TxDOT-funded loop road around South Texas? Every other part of the state has it. Are you somehow less important because you're 98% Mexican American, you're hard to travel to, your per capita income is the lowest in the state? No, you're just as important as everyone else, including the folks in Houston and Dallas and San Antonio. That's a concrete thing that we can point to. Are you struggling working at the Houston airport making $7.25 an hour? Do you deserve better because you're putting in a full day's work and you don't want to be on benefits, you don't want to be on SNAP, you don't want to be on a government handout? Absolutely. Let's raise the minimum wage so that you can live in dignity. That's a concrete example of something that we can do. So you're right. It can't be amorphous hope and change, although I think at the end of the day, you've got to feel those things based on the concrete proposals that we're making. But to this point, you won't know that if you don't show up in South Texas. If you're not in McAllen, if you're not in Donna, if you're not in these places that go overlooked, disregarded, taken for granted by Democrats, which is how Republicans ate their lunch in these last 3 election cycles. So got to show up for everyone everywhere. You can't be too blue, too red, too remote, too urban. Everybody counts in Texas.
Well, we have a call from Greg in Kingwood. And I think he's saying the Democratic Party needs to change. Greg, what are your thoughts?
Hey, guys. Hey, I agree with Beto. Look at South Texas. We've had the idiot Musk blow up 3 of the biggest rockets in the universe that we know of. And wait till it blows up on the pad. His record is great for that big missile. And wait till it blows up on the pad, takes out the town. And then, link Abbott to Musk and the Republicans to Musk. What did they give to Musk to move everything here? And, but, you look at when is the time?
Greg, thank you for the call. I want to remind everyone the number here is 713-440-8870. Beto?
Look, I think that we have absolutely got to be excited about innovation and creativity and risk-taking. And even though I don't like a lot of what Elon Musk is doing at the federal level with Doge and these indiscriminate job cuts.
And just to clarify, Elon Musk did announce he's leaving the Trump White House. And he's leaving the Doge.
I saw that, and he's going to return full-time to his businesses. And maybe this is, unorthodox to say, but I take some pride in that he has chosen Texas. And when I'm in Brownsville, there is a ton of pride in his investment and his risk-taking there. To the caller's point, there's also a need to make sure that we're controlling for potential disaster, harm to human health, the environmental toll that that's taking. And I think most of us, conservative, liberal, could agree on that. Like, go for it, Elon. Like, I love your vision of making us a multi-planetary species. I love the innovation that is coming out of this country through all the different companies that you have led. But let's make sure that the people who work there, the people who live around there, are taken care of. And Democrats, I mean, you all made this point better than I did earlier. We cannot define ourselves by who we're opposed to and who we hate. We also have to be for innovation, for risk-taking, for boldness. And if anything, the Democratic Party has now been defined by just how, sterile and unambitious it has been lately. And I think there's a great opportunity to change that. So
and disconnected. I think a lot of people felt that the candidate, Kamala Harris, could not speak to people, whereas President Trump could go on Joe Rogan and chat. So here we have you who would essentially fit that bill, but yet you have not won. Why is that? What is the messaging, and where are y'all missing the mark when it comes to messaging?
Yeah, well, so, I mean, there's some precedent for this, right? This state was solidly Democratic for a century before a Republican finally broke through. We've been in the wilderness now for more than 30 years, and it's going to be really tough. We're not going to get out of there overnight. We've seen cause for hope. I mentioned how transformative 2018 was across the board, especially in Harris County. I mentioned how Republicans in power responded to that. In the wake of Shelby versus Holder, the Voting Rights Act no longer taking hold, the protections for states like Texas, Republicans, and look, Democrats do this in Illinois, Democrats do this in New York. So this is not a Republican-Democrat thing. This is a human nature thing. When you're in power, your human inclination is to protect that power. And that's what Republicans are doing in Texas, which just makes it a little bit harder. So to answer your question, I think we need an across the board, like at every position on the statewide ballot, we need quality, well-funded candidates on every position down ballot, from Justice of the Peace, County Commissioner, State Rep, State Senate, U.S. Congress. We need someone challenging. If we do that, if it's a true united front, and if we stop being closed off and so damn judgmental about someone who voted for Trump before, or someone doesn't exactly share our views on every single cultural issue, and really open this tent up to people who want to see a better country that actually serves everyone, we're going to have a chance to win some of these elections. If we fail to do that, I think we're going to continue to commit the same mistake in the same way and receive the same result. And so for me, I need to see those kind of changes, and I want to be part of that kind of change to have the hope that we're actually going to win in Texas.
Which we did get a YouTube question, and I think that this is based on what you were just saying. Beto, where can you influence the most in your current capacity?
I think doing these town hall meetings and elevating and amplifying people's voices out of Wichita Falls, out of, Amarillo, out of tonight in Humble, where we're going to be at the Civic Center at 6 p.m., this is a great way to help my fellow Democrats who refuse to show up, frankly, folks, in these places and listen to people and do it unfiltered, unscreened. Anybody can have the microphone. I don't care if you're Republican, Democrat, does not matter. No me importa. You get to say what you want to say. I need to hear that. When I was a congressman for 6 years, I held a town hall every month. I was scared out of my wits going into that. What is someone going to say to me? Hey, Beto, I'm so disappointed that you voted for this thing. Hey, Beto, when you were campaigning, you promised to do X, Y, or Z. Where the hell are you on that? That made me such a better representative because I feared my constituents and I did not want to be embarrassed in front of them. And I told my team and myself, we had better deliver on everything we promised. Every issue that's been brought to our attention, we better be responsive to it. And we were. And I'm deeply gratified and fulfilled by that experience. I want to see more Democrats doing more of that work.
To Celeste's point, I think Republicans are direct. I don't always think they're right, but they say, we're getting rid of illegal gang members. And Democrats say, well, wait, due process. They say, to hell with due process. We're getting rid of them. Mm-hmm. They say there are two genders, man and woman. To hell with transgenders. It's two. And Democrats say, well, wait a minute. Biology plays a point. Even you just said, look, Elon Musk did a lot of things that I kind of agree with. I mean, I'm glad he's in Texas. And I think that's where Democrats fail. They try to play both sides of the philosophical dice, and the Republicans don't. The Republicans say, this is how we're going to do it. We're going, no rape, no incest, abortion is illegal. And Democrats say, well, wait a minute, this isn't quite fair. And guess what? The Republicans keep winning based on black and white as opposed to purple.
Yeah, I don't know if I totally agree with that, and actually,
and that's a Democratic response.
Yeah,
I don't know if I totally agree with that, because let's look at both sides of it, Frank.
Well, I think you're right. This may be part of the problem, and I may be the center of that in this conversation. But I also got to be honest and true to myself, and I'm not going to say something because it polls well or it's the politically hot thing to do at the moment. And who are my inspirations? I look at Robert Kennedy Sr., the good. I look at JFK. I look at FDR. I look at, to pick some Republicans, I look at Teddy Roosevelt. I mean, those folks were willing to address the complexity of life. Read Lincoln's inaugural address, his second inaugural address. I mean, this is a mind blower. 300,000 people that he was the commander-in-chief for have just lost their lives. And in his second inaugural, he's like, who am I to judge, which side is in the right? This is for God, but I'm doing what I think is correct. He's the most inspiring American who's ever walked this planet. He happens to be a Republican, and he didn't speak in black and white. So, maybe I'm an anachronism, and maybe I'm wrong for these times, and that's probably cause enough for me to consider whether I should ever run. But I do think we want to be honest. I do see people responding to that. But to the point you're making and that Celeste made earlier, I do think that Democrats equivocated when they knew the truth. If you have a problem at the border, say you have a problem at the border. Don't say that this is just a Republican talking point. Don't try to explain it away. Don't say that Biden's implemented this change to the asylum program and this is going to make your life better. You're telling me your life is not better. I need to honor that, repeat that, and fix that. And if I don't deserve to be in office. And if I'm not willing to do it, they're going to pick the guy who is willing to do it. If I'm not willing to be tough on crime to make sure that you feel safe in your home, they're going to elect the guy who will be tough on crime to make sure that you're safe in your home, even if that guy is going to suspend your constitutional rights, even if he's going to do some things that you find to be completely atrocious. And so I will take the spirit of your point that we need to be as clear and direct as we can, but I will never sacrifice the truth in order to achieve that. I'll never be anyone other than who I am in order to do that. So I think it's a good point overall, though, and I think Democrats could benefit from that.
We are speaking with Beto O'Rourke, and our phone number here, if you'd like to join the conversation, is 713-440-8870. We've got a few calls on the line, so let's try and work through them. Benjamin, you are up first from Wharton. What's on your mind?
Hey, Ernie. Good morning or good afternoon. This question is for Beto. Beto, when you were running both of your campaigns, I reached out to you to offer my help. But all I got from your team, this is not your fault, your team was asking for money, $20, $50, $100. And my question to them was, well, what does this equate to? How many votes is my money going to get you? What I was offering, hey, I can get you 1,000 votes. Maybe 10,000 votes, just by tailoring a message. Give me access to the voter, and I can tailor a message for them. But your staff would not even hear me out.
Benjamin, I'm going to hold you right here so Beto has a chance to answer it.
Yeah, Ernie, so first of all, thank you for the offer to help and for trying to do the right thing, because you're making an excellent point. Money is just the means to reach voters. If you can reach them directly, even without the money, all the better. And that's why I believed in a 254 county strategy. That's why when I ran for Congress and won, I knocked on 16,000 doors myself. The money is just the means. The social media message, the TV broadcast, the radio ads, they're all a poor substitute for human-to-human connection. That's the most profoundly powerful thing we can do. And in a democracy, government of, by, and for the people, it's people getting with people. So, if I were to do this again, Ernie, I'd want you on speed dial, and I'd want to ask you who you'd be willing to talk to on my behalf, how you could relay the message in terms that your neighbors, your friends, your family would understand best. We can't cook this up in a lab in D.C. or Austin. It's not going to come from a consultant. It has to come from the people. That's what I really believe in. In our group, Powered by People, our volunteers are out there doing that right now through voter registration and voter contact and voter organizing. So I believe in it. And if I'm out there again, Ernie, I want to do a better job and honor your offer to volunteer.
Well, I'm the Ernie here. I think it's
It
Benjamin.
was Benjamin.
Oh, Benjamin. Sorry.
No.
I thought he said his name was Ernie.
Beto, you're talking about voters. We know that you had a lot of traction with young voters. We also know that young voters are less likely to go out and vote. How are you inspiring younger voters to vote?
So our group, Powered by People, we have about 1,300 active volunteers, and we train them to become volunteer deputy registrars. And then we deploy them to campuses, to Texas Southern University, to Rice, to the University of Houston, for example. And we meet them where they are, literally, help them register to vote. And then this is the thing that we do that I don't think anyone else does. Our Powered by People volunteers then say, hey, Celeste, could I get your cell phone number and stay in touch with you? And 18-year-old Celeste says, sure. 30 days after I met you, hey, Celeste, this is Beto. I want to make sure you got your voter registration card in the mail. Yep, I got it. Great. And then maybe 30 days before the election, Celeste, here are the forms of voter ID that you can use at the polling location at University of Houston. And then, on the eve of elections, here are the early voting locations. Here are the candidates who align with the values that you and I talked about. And then I just stay on your case until I know that you have voted. And Harris County releases the voting data every day during early voting. And so once Celeste has voted, I check her off my list. I stop bugging her. That method that we employed in 2024 produced a 79.5% turnout rate for 18 to 29-year-olds. Nationally, that average is 42%. So we know this works. The question is, can I go from 1,300 volunteers to 13,000 volunteers and really do this on a statewide basis? But I don't think money's going to fix it, to the point that Benjamin, not Ernie, made earlier. I don't think it's messaging. I don't think it's social media. I think it's people connecting with people and doing this really hard work that you literally cannot phone in.
713-440-8870. Interesting you said phone in, because we have Clay on the line. Clay, what's on your mind?
Hello. First, I just want to correct something I heard that's wrong. It's not the Democrat Party. It's never the Democrat Party. It's the Democratic Party. George W. started calling it the Democrat Party as a way to belittle Democratic Party members. So,
sorry if we made that error for you, Clay. Your question before
that,
we lose Beto due to time. What's up?
The other thing is, Beto, why don't you run for chair of the Democratic Party in Texas? It's feckless.
That's fair.
And they need someone with energy and vision on top, or it's never going to go anywhere. I think that might be the way that you can contribute the most right now. I know it's a behind-the-scenes job, and it's out of the spotlight most of the time, but maybe you could put it in the spotlight a little bit more.
Clay, let's find out. Beto.
Clay, so thank you for that. And I'm cool to hang out behind the scenes. I just want to be helpful, and I just want to be useful. The Texas Democratic Party just elected a new chairman. His name's Kendall Scudder. I've got high hopes for him. I think he truly believes in a 254-county go-everywhere strategy, and we want to support that. What I think I can do, to the spirit of your question, is to complement that work by, for example, helping to recruit candidates in places where the Democratic Party has not been running them, and so there's no one giving voice to the kind of specific changes that we just talked about earlier. And then, who knows in what other ways I might be able to help, but I'm going to do everything I can with what I have wherever I am across this state.
One more time, tonight is where and when, Beto?
We're going to be at the Humble Civic Center at 6 p.m., and I just want to triple underscore, this is open to everyone. You do not have to be a Democrat. I really actually want to hear from you if you're a Republican, if you voted for Donald Trump, if you're dissatisfied with the Democratic Party. If you love the Democratic Party and you voted for Kamala Harris, you're welcome as well. This one is open to everyone because I think it's going to take everybody to get this country back on track.
Beto, you started your national journey with Will Hurd, who was a Republican. If you could take another road trip with any Republican, who would it be?
It's funny. I just put a call into Adam Kinzinger, who I believe has moved to Houston.
Ernie's friend.
Okay. And I just said, hey, Adam, he and I served together. I'm in Houston. I understand you live here now. Would love to grab a cup of coffee. And who knows if that doesn't turn into a 2,000-mile.
Are you going to run for Senate? Are you going to run for Senate?
I don't know.
Would you like to run for Senate?
I would love to. I would love to serve this state as a senator. I'd love to be out there campaigning. You all know that. If I could do that all the time, I would. It's just a question of, is this the right thing to do for Texas?
Nice to be here. Thank you.
Former Texas Congressman Beto O'Rourke. Beto, again, thank you for joining us today on Hello Houston.
Thank you, Celeste. Thank you all.
After the break, we'll hear Ernie's conversation with the wonderful Ana María Martínez. Stay with us. You're listening to News 88.7.
Did you know 80% of our funding comes from listeners like you, right here in Houston? That's why your support is so important. When you give to Houston Public Media, you're investing in trusted news and educational programming that millions depend on daily. Every dollar you give makes a difference, ensuring this public service stays strong for everyone in our community. Help us support this mission. Give today at houstonpublicmedia.org or call 888-909-0887.
Support comes from John Moore, helping with plumbing, electrical, and air conditioning repairs, including out-of-warranty units since 1965. Details at 730-2525 or at johnmooreservices.com. Support comes from the Houston Symphony, concluding their classical season with Mahler's Third Symphony under music director Yuri Valchua, featuring mezzo-soprano Marina Prudenskaya, May 30th through June 1st. Tickets at houstonsymphony.org.
Support comes from Rice University's Baker Institute, offering a forum for informed, nonpartisan, civic-minded engagement on the most pressing issues facing Texas, the U.S., and the world. More information about becoming a member is at bakerinstitute.org/membership.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on any of today's topics, call 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now back to Ernie Manouse, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
From 2004 to 2015, I had the pleasure of producing and hosting the nationally syndicated TV series InnerVIEWS with Ernie Manouse for Houston Public Media. Today, after 10 years, we're relaunching the program as a YouTube series and podcast with excerpts airing right here on Hello Houston. On our first episode, we are honored to welcome the Grammy Award-winning soprano Ana María Martínez, known for her portrayals of iconic roles such as Cho-Cho-san in Madame Butterfly, Mimi in La Boheme, and the titular character in Rusalka. Born in Puerto Rico, she is a graduate of the Juilliard School and was artist-in-resident at the Shepherd School of Music at Rice University and served as Houston Grand Opera's first ever artistic advisor. In addition to a thriving performance schedule, she also serves as a professor in Rice University's Department of Voice. Saturday night, she's bringing her talents home to the Houston Hobby Center in a musical tour de force, unveiling Ana María Martínez with Andy Einhorn. Unveiling. You are doing a concert here in Houston, May 31st at the Hobby Center. What can people expect?
So this is a brand new thing for me. To put together something that is actually much more personal. So by nature, a recital is going to be intimate, and it's usually piano and soloist, maybe some other instruments, maybe a guest or two. That sort of thing can happen in a recital. And I like to do, and I've done them for years, all Spanish language recitals, different pieces and different periods of music, but all Spanish. But this one is actually more personal, and it's going to be basically a story of my life, section to section. How did I get here? And then this next here, how did I get there? And then how did I get there? So there will be conversation there as well. There will be a little bit of storytelling and story sharing to make it more just understandable to people, because they might see somebody that's been doing this for over 30 years and think that everything is nicely put together since day one, but it's not so. And so there will be some musical theater, there will be some opera, there will be some Spanish selections.
Any Fleetwood Mac or Billy Jones?
No, I wish. So I mean, I want it to sound like Stevie Nicks, but my voice doesn't do that. So the songs would just not sound the same. No, not in this incarnation. Maybe the next one. But it's a very personal journey. It's a very personal story, and I hope it'll be fun and some funny parts. But it starts in my early childhood, and then into training years, and then career, and longing for my beautiful Puerto Rico that I left when I was a child. And I did go back often, but it was just not home anymore. And then I was here. So there's touching base on that, meaning here, anywhere that's outside of there.
Yeah.
And where do I fit in? How do I fit in? And all of that, which so many people can identify with.
When you left Puerto Rico, came right to New York City?
Yes.
I can't imagine two different places.
It was a shock, such a shock. I was 6 years old, and I'm an only child, but many, many cousins that are really my siblings. And I went from aunts and uncles and doting grandmother and cousins to just my parents and me. And my parents were very busy pursuing their careers. So it was basically just me. And that was a big culture shock. Different language, different pace, different city, different everything. So much pavement versus the ocean and the palm trees. It was just a huge shock. So I touch base on that. And then there's also the part that is more current, which is the mentoring and the teaching and looking forward. So I'm taking everyone who's coming, please come and enjoy this. I'm looking forward to telling this story, to show all of those aspects of myself.
Is it hard to put out the program that is the story of your life, basically? But you only have so much time, and each choice has to be very specifically made.
Yes.
And the music pieces, for all you've been involved with picking the right ones, how hard was that for you? Excruciatingly difficult. And you can speak with Andy Einhorn, and who's your musical director on this?
Yes, and Heather Gladstein, who is my right hand in everything. I have probably driven them insane because it's been like pulling teeth. I have to get this program together, and I have to get this concept together. And now I'm just so excited about it.
Yeah.
But it's tough because you're pulling from different directions, all sorts of different directions. And it's personal, and I haven't seen something like this done in this way. So it's got a little symphony going on. So it's the most difficult thing I've put together. I will tell you that right now. And I've curated programs before, but it's had a very clear theme to me. And as long as I'm doing that with others in mind as well, and with a story that's not necessarily personal, I can do that in a day. But this has been a labor of love to put it together. And my hope when people leave is, what do they want their story to be? And part of that could be, what's your legacy? What do you want your story to say about you?
Doing this, what surprised you about what you ended up telling us?
To admit through music the doubt, inner doubt, self-doubt. Is everything going to work out? Am I going to be able to do this? It's one thing to feel it and think it privately, but to also share that. But I like sharing it now that I'm older, because there might be people that are attending that might feel that as well.
Yeah.
And to understand that that's very human. And touching on the greatest gift of my life, which is motherhood. And then touching on picking some songs that aren't necessarily envisioned as mentoring and passing the torch, but when I sing them, it's with that lens. I think that's beautiful. And yeah.
For you, is it hard to get up there without a character to be in and just be you?
It's harder. It is harder, but it actually, what helps to break that wall and make it more comfortable is to start talking. Because then it's really me. It's not me trying to look polished and well put together, because that's actually what's scary.
Yeah.
It's when you're playing a character, you're in the character. You might be nervous, but you get over it as soon as you open your mouth. When you do a recital, that's nerve-wracking, because it's you in an intimate setting having to be just you and very exposed. And you would think that doing something where you're also talking is even scarier, but it's not. Because then all my flaws are out there in the open, and it's a relief.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. It's a relief to show that I'm flawed and have fears. And the reason I say, okay, it is a relief because in classical music, there is such an aim for perfection. Perfection doesn't really exist. There might be a second or two, let's say in the Olympics, where something is a perfect score. There's a moment of perfection. But we're constantly striving for that. So what I tell myself is I want to be in the zone of perfection. It's almost rotating and in constant movement. And I am hoping that I can be within that space that exists in another dimension. I'm not perfect, but hopefully if I can envision myself in that space, I can get close to it. We're always aiming for that. So what is not perfect is to admit you're flawed. So that's a relief for me to go out there and say, hey, not perfect. Not perfect.
Yeah.
And this
How
is
does
my
this
story.
differ then from just a recital to this very personal telling of your life?
There's that aspect.
Yeah.
The conversation of it. The making it so personal is not normally what a recital is about. And that I'm going from zarzuela, which is Spanish operetta, to Broadway, to songs from Cuba and Puerto Rico, back to Broadway. I'm hoping to share a brand new composition by a composer, dear friend of mine, who very much wants to contribute something to this evening. So we're working on that right now together.
Time's ticking. You guys got to get going.
It'll probably, well, I'll tell you really quickly. I did a Giancarlo Menotti opera right out of my master's degree called The Singing Child. And Menotti was with us in the Spoleto USA Festival. He was with us every single day. And the last bit of music we were handed an hour before curtain. He was constantly doing revisions. So that can happen.
Yeah.
That can happen. No, but I hope to have that squared away in the next couple of days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think will surprise people who know you seeing this show?
Again, I think just the candid nature of it will surprise them.
Do you hide your insecurities well in everyday life?
I think so, because I'm feeling insecure all the time. And then people, when I talk to them, they say they can't believe it. I get up in front of thousands of people and I do this and I do that and the years of excellence and et cetera, et cetera. And I say, yeah, well, that's my job. But inside I'm dying.
Yeah.
I'm just terrified and feel very insecure. But I take a deep breath. And one of the things that helps me to plow through is, do I know what I'm doing for this event, for this production, for this moment? Yes. Am I prepared? Have I prepared for this? Yes. Okay, then just do your best.
Yeah.
Just do your best and commit to the moment.
Ernie with opera star Ana María Martínez. You can enjoy the full interview on our YouTube channel or simply by visiting HelloHouston.org. To find out more about Ana Maria's autobiographical musical performance, Unveiling Ana María Martínez with Andy Einhorn, this Saturday night at the Hobby Center. Simply visit thehobbycenter.org. That was a great interview,
She is
Ernie.
just, and the full interview is about 50 minutes long and really takes you through her life and her career. Just the nicest thing is she lives here in Houston.
Yes.
She's one of us. She's in our community and just so unaffected by the fact, she's here, she goes to the grocery store, and maybe the next day she's at some major opera house performing. It blows my mind.
Yeah, and she's Puerto Rican. I did not realize that she's Puerto Rican, and I loved that. And she's a mom. There was a lot. It was that was a great interview. Ernie.
Well, thank you. And we're relaunching this series, which makes me happy after all these years. Interviews with Ernie Manouse is born again.
That's exciting. I mean, some of your interviews have some of the highest views on our YouTube channel.
Yeah, you can find them. Just search InnerVIEWS, INNERVIEWS on YouTube, and you'll find 15 seasons of these interviews out there. And now we're starting the new one.
Ernie, who would you say in the 15 seasons was your favorite interview so far? At least top two. Give me a top
which
two.
Which one's your favorite child, Celeste?
Oh, I can't.
Okay, my first one is, and it's funny because she's in the news right now, and she was one of the first ones we recorded, Patti LuPone.
Patti LuPone.
She came into the room, sweetest person you would ever meet, came in alone, said, "Hi, my name's Patti. I'm here for Ernie." Not at all what you think from what we're hearing in the news today. I absolutely loved her.
Diva.
Not the diva. And there've been great ones all along, but I'm looking forward to the ones we're going to be doing in this new series.
Those are coming up. You can check those out. Interviews with Ernie Manouse at HelloHouston.org. Also, coming up on Hello Houston, we're gonna hear from you about our interview just earlier moments ago with Beto O'Rourke. You'll also hear some of our thoughts, the top headlines, and
And again, 713-440-8870. Stay with us for the second hour of Hello Houston.
Stay tuned. There's more Hello Houston on the way with Ernie Manouse, Celestia Sherman, and Frank Billingsley. For the latest in local news, subscribe to the Hello Houston daily newsletter at houstonpublicmedia.org. Hello Houston is a production of Houston Public Media. The opinions expressed by the guests of this program are solely their own and do not represent the views of management, staff, or underwriters of Houston Public Media. This is News 88.7.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from CenterPoint Energy, which has completed installing 26,000 poles and trimming vegetation for more than 6,000 miles of power lines, all part of their plan to build a resilient coastal grid for the hurricane season.
A really nice day today. Lots of sunshine. We'll get up to about 89. And tonight, partly cloudy, a low 77. It's 82. This is your NPR station, KUHF. Houston. News 88.7, a service of the University of Houston. It's 12 o'clock.
Just ahead on this hour of Hello Houston, we dive into today's top stories, including the Houston Police Department rescinding a directive requiring patrol officers to make at least one traffic stop per shift. I'm Ernie Manouse.
Also, the Houston Asian American Pacific Islander Film Festival, or HAAPIFEST, begins tomorrow. We'll talk with the festival director and co-founder, as well as a Houston filmmaker whose short film will be showcased during the festival. I'm Celestia Sherman.
And I'm Frank Billingsley. Plus, we'll also dive into our weekly current obsessions, our regular Thursday feature where we share our pop culture recommendations.
And we want to hear from you. Do you have a current obsession? Any thoughts, questions, or concerns about any of today's topic? For any of it, give us a call or text us at 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org.
Hello Houston is made possible in part by founding sponsors John Bradshaw and Kathy Sanders, and by gifts from listeners like you.
Live from NPR News, I'm Lakshmi Singh. A federal court is blocking the Trump administration's bid to bar Harvard University from enrolling international students. Lawyers for both sides went to court today in Boston. The dispute over foreign student enrollment was the latest in Harvard's defiance of President Trump's directives that have also led to sweeping funding cuts to Harvard and other research institutions across the U.S. Elon Musk is leaving the White House after overseeing the president's Department of Government Efficiency. NPR's Bobby Allen says Musk departs after DOJ dismantled government agencies and laid off tens of thousands of federal workers.
Musk thanked President Trump on X for allowing him to reduce wasteful spending as part of the Department of Government Efficiency that he led. The billionaire framed his exit as a natural end of his time as a special government employee, which are allowed to serve for 130 days, a number Musk hits on Friday. But there is more to the story. Musk has spent weeks clashing with cabinet members and advisors in the White House over tariff policy, high-profile appointments, and Republicans' Big Beautiful Bill, which Musk says undermines DOJ's spending cuts. Musk's time in government led to thousands of layoffs, agencies being gutted, and about 20 lawsuits challenging Musk's authority. Now Musk says he will put his focus back on SpaceX and Tesla. Bobby Allen, NPR News.
The U.S. is offering a new proposal for a temporary ceasefire in Gaza. Here's NPR's Daniel Estrin.
President Trump's special envoy Steve Witkoff said the U.S. is presenting a new proposal. An Israeli source briefed on it, but not authorized to speak publicly, tells NPR the U.S. is suggesting a 60-day ceasefire with the release of 10 living Israeli hostages and 18 bodies of those who died or were killed in captivity. Israel did not immediately comment on the proposal. Hamas says it received Witkoff's proposal and is studying it. Hamas has said it's willing to release 10 hostages, but wants international mediators to guarantee there would be talks on ending the war. Daniel Estrin, NPR News, Tel Aviv.
A federal court says President Trump cannot use an emergency powers law to enact sweeping tariffs on U.S. imports. The British government's reacting cautiously to the ruling from the Court of International Trade in New York. Here's Villa Marks.
Britain says the U.S. Trade Court's rulings on tariffs were, quote, matters for the United States to determine domestically. The statement went on to note that, quote, this is only the first stage of legal proceedings. The court decision, although already under appeal, severely undercuts the president's trade negotiating strategy that relies on the threat of sweeping tariffs on goods from dozens of countries. Britain struck the first provisional agreement with the US to reduce those tariffs, and its leaders have talked up this negotiating success. The government statement said the UK was, quote, working to ensure that businesses can benefit from that deal as quickly as possible. For NPR News, I'm Willem Marks in London.
U.S. stocks are trading higher this hour. The Nasdaq is up 120 points. It's NPR News.
Live from News 88.7 in Houston, I'm Gabrielle Dawkins. The Fort Bend County Commissioners Court remained in deadlock this week over redistricting. From the Fort Bend County Bureau, News 88.7's Natalie Weber tells us more about the debate.
Precinct does not exceed 5,000.
In a tense meeting, commissioners clashed over the county's voter precincts. About a fifth of the precincts don't meet the state's population requirements. County Commissioner Andy Myers, a Republican, is also alleging the current map is illegally based on race.
Our county precinct map should fully comply with both federal and state law.
County Commissioner Dexter McCoy, a Democrat, says he supports fixing the voter precincts, but more substantial changes aren't needed.
To say that we need to do a full-scale redistricting at this time is a waste of taxpayer dollars.
Commissioners will review the maps again in 2 weeks. From the Fort Bend County Bureau, I'm Natalie Weber, News 88.7.
There's a surplus of vacation homes on the market in Galveston. News 88.7's Tom Perumian reports what's driving the sell-off.
From the end of the pandemic to now, the number of short-term rental properties in Galveston doubled to around 5,000. Real estate agent Kimberly Guido told Houston Matters Wednesday what's driving this current spell of buyer's remorse.
They were told, get in the short-term rental business, you'll offset your taxes, insurance, and mortgage. And that wasn't necessarily the case. The pie was split so many ways. Going from 2,500 to 5,000, people don't take into account what the upkeep is on those houses. It's not cheap.
Marissa Luck with the Houston Chronicle says homeowners need 3 types of insurance in the Galveston market: home, flood, and wind and storm insurance, and premiums are skyrocketing. I'm Tom Perumian, News 88.7.
The Houston Police Department would no longer require patrol officers to make at least 1 traffic stop per shift. Chief Noah Diaz dropped the quota after criticism. It's currently 82 degrees with a high near 89. I'm Gabrielle Dawkins, News 88.7.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Fisher Investments. As a fiduciary, Fisher Investments is obligated to act in their client's best interest. Learn more at FisherInvestments.com. Investing in securities involves the risk of loss. This is NPR.
From Houston Public Media and News 88.7, it's Hello Houston, an open forum on today's biggest stories affecting Houston and beyond. Call now, 713-440-8870, or let us know your thoughts on today's topics by emailing us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now here's your host for Hello Houston, Ernie Manouse, Celestia Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
Pretty busy first hour already. It was nice to hear from Ana María Martínez, but I have a funny feeling most people are thinking about Beto.
Yeah.
It was a great conversation. I think he was very forthright.
Mm-hmm.
I think we asked him some solid questions. A lot of people want to know if he's going to run for Senate.
There's a lot of speculation that he will.
Yeah, but there was a good suggestion about heading up the Democratic Party in Texas. That might be a good place for him.
But as he said, they just voted in their new chair of the party, and it's going to be interesting to see. He definitely has a future. What that future is has yet to unfold. Like when we were talking in the interview, too, surprised still in 2022 to have fallen so far behind Abbott in the governor race really makes you wonder where is the state. Well, it doesn't even make you wonder. It clarifies where the state is politically, and that's a big gap to make up. And as he talked about it, there were so many reasons why, if there was going to be a Democrat to break through that red state, that was almost the perfect storm of it. There were bills that were out there that were concerning people. There was a lot of issues at play, and he still was 12 points behind. So I'm sure they're spending a lot of time thinking, how do you, because the other side of it is too, and then I'll let you guys talk. You can tell I had my caffeine.
Makes sense.
The other side of it too is, but is he playing from the same playbook again this time, going from community to community, doing what he did before? And as you said, Celeste, in the past, he didn't win those doing it that way. So does he need a new game plan?
And that was, I think, what Frank and I were trying to get at, is that the Republican Party, when Trump came on the scene, President Trump took that playbook, the Republicans' playbook, and he basically tore it apart.
Yep. Yeah.
And a lot of people in general, I think, are looking at the Democratic Party and saying, why aren't y'all essentially doing the same thing? You all have, here we didn't, President Trump didn't win consecutively. He won his first term. We had a Democratic president, and President Trump beat him. And there were counties in the state of Texas that had been blue. And we saw black men come out and vote for President Trump. We saw Hispanics come out in very high numbers. So clearly, and then a lot of people felt that the Democratic Party is very disconnected. Well, Beto O'Rourke is one of those people that is that guy, that person that you can talk to, that doesn't feel clinical, that doesn't feel, but yet he hasn't won.
Well, and he did initially win. He was representing us, and then
in El Paso.
And I will just say the reason I tend to dive into this. I started off in election and news polling at NBC, so for me, the whole structure of a campaign and the messaging you're trying to get out there, I look at very closely, and it's what are you doing new and different and fresh. And I think for years we're going to be analyzing what Trump and his group did that rewrote politics, and I don't think when Trump is done, it goes back to the way it was before. We're in a new landscape now, and politicians are going to have to play this game differently.
It's very take no prisoners. It's that battlefield of I'm going to say what I want to say and do what I want to do, and I'm going to offer it, even if I can't deliver on it. If it sounds good and my electorate wants to hear it, I'm going to say it.
What do you think? The number, 713-440-8870. How are you feeling about the new landscape of politics? Is Beto on the right path? Are you going to go out and see him tonight? What did you think of the interview, if you had the opportunity to hear it? If you didn't, remember, it will be archived and available for you on our YouTube channel, and you can watch it there this afternoon. And that's simply just go to YouTube and look for the Houston Public Media channel.
Yep.
That's right. Diving into our top headlines now. Houston Police Department Chief Noe Diaz on Wednesday rescinded a directive requiring patrol officers to make at least one traffic stop per shift. The move came before the start of a city council meeting where council members ended up passing an ordinance prohibiting the practice. In a memo to Mayor John Whitmire, Diaz said the directive was, quote, established under a prior administration, unquote, and, quote, no longer aligns with current best practices for patrol officers. He said new guidance will emphasize officer discretion. According to a 2024 data submitted to the Texas Commission on Law Enforcement, black drivers accounted for about 34% of HPD's traffic stops, despite compromising 23% of the city's population. About 2% of the department's traffic stops were for Hispanic drivers and 30% for white drivers, who respectively represent 44 and 36% of the population. Christopher Rivera, outreach coordinator with the Texas Civil Rights Project, said the change is a great step in the right direction to address racial disparities in traffic stops, searches, and use of force for incidents. Are you happy HPD is no longer using this requirement? What are your thoughts on this headline? 713-440-8870.
I'm ecstatic.
Well, it is to say that there are fewer black people, but they're getting more traffic tickets than whites and Hispanics.
But outside of even that, to put a guideline on in every shift you must make a traffic stop. So even if you didn't see something as an officer that you felt rose to the level of making a stop, you're going to have to make one.
Yep.
I don't think ever rules like that work. And they are so common in corporate America on many levels. You have to do this for that, even if it doesn't make sense to do it. And so I applaud it, and I'm happy that we had the foresight to do something like that.
I got stopped for going 35 in a 30.
Speed demon.
I know. I said, what? I said, there's no stop. There's no signs on this road, for one thing. No speed limit signs. Well, if you're in a residential area, it's 30. I said, so I was going 35 in a 30? He said, yes.
Did they take you to Houston?
No.
Were you locked away?
No, he let me go with a warning. But, come on.
Yeah, right. But I mean, he probably had to do it. It was toward the end of the shift. He hadn't gotten
I asked a few people that. So I always see the cops at Damaris Barbecue when I go to eat there, and I told them about it. And they said, "Oh, you were a statistic."
Yeah.
So I mean, this is a thing where you have to make so many so many stops per shift.
Yeah,
and I was the stop.
Yeah, that has always sat wrong with me, and I'm happy that they've made a move to stop that. What are your thoughts?
What is it? Let me ask you this. Are they going to be like, you have to make at least one every other day? I mean,
No,
is there still a minimum?
removing it and saying that it has to be at the discretion of the officers.
Okay.
So that's the way I think it should be. Will that adjust those statistics you were also talking about, where proportionally it doesn't match the population breakdowns? Hopefully. Hopefully they'll be stopping because they see something egregious. 713-440-8870. What do you think of the traffic stop? Okay, moving on to another story. The Texas Senate approved a bill early Wednesday that would prevent cities or counties from holding a gun buyback program. This is an interesting one. The proposal also seeks to stop local governments from sponsoring or organizing such a program. It's now headed to the governor's desk. State Senator Bob Hall, a Republican from Edgewood, told lawmakers during an earlier discussion on Monday that it was, quote, necessary guardrail against misuse of local authority. State Senator Jose Menendez, a Democrat from San Antonio, said that his city and Houston, us, have had successful gun buyback events. The voluntary program in San Antonio exchanges weapons for gift cards. Are you in favor of gun buyback programs in Texas or not? 713-440-8870.
This is the epitome of stupid.
Oh, do you have an opinion, Frank?
Well, if you have my father died. He had a gun. I don't want a gun. What am I supposed to do with the gun? Well, giving it to the city of Houston for a $100 gift card is a great idea. Yeah. And these have been very successful in San Antonio. We've had them in Houston. They've been very successful. They get guns, not just like get guns off the street, but get guns that people don't want anymore. And you get something for that. It's been successful. And the only reason that Representative Bob Hall did this is because he feels like in the blue cities, Houston, Dallas, Austin, San Antonio, they have too much authority over gun control. And it is phony baloney.
What is the measurement of successful for this?
That you get a number of guns, hopefully some of them off the street.
Yeah, it reduces number of guns that are
nobody
floating around in society.
I mean, let's say somebody had stolen I had my dad's gun in my house somewhere. I get broken into, somebody steals that gun, commits a crime with now my gun. That's bad news bears, right?
Right. I think that when we're looking at this specifically, there's been an ongoing debate about this nationally. This is an issue
about
nationally about buyback programs, because the debate is essentially that it is limited in impact, because the people that essentially are giving back the guns are not necessarily the people that you're trying to take the guns out of their hand.
The bad players will continue to keep the guns, and the theory is, and then people that have a different view on gun control and gun safety are the ones who are selling them back. I think they also feel, though, that for younger people in the populace that they've got guns, they would rather get the cash on it because they can do something.
And if we're just looking at specific, we're looking at gun violence, trying to reduce gun violence. I'm pretty sure there's enough research out there that says when we're just looking at gun violence, buyback programs, there is very limited impact.
Do we know that? Do we have statistics on that?
Yes, I was looking at it earlier. But yes, so for somebody,
it doesn't hurt.
For somebody who essentially, like you said, inherited a gun, you don't have a license, you don't want it, you don't want it in your home. Absolutely. But these programs, I mean, again, what is the impact here?
Well, what do you think? 713-440-8870. First of all, let's let's grab Jane from Missouri City because she's got a thought on this. Jane, what's on your mind?
Frank, I'm 100% with you. I think that Republicans who would present such an atrocious bill should have to look in the face in front of parents whose children have been gunned down and explain his logic in reducing the number of guns in circulation.
Well,
I think it's outrageous.
I think you're right, but it does have limited impact. But even if it saves one life, I mean, one suicide, one kid who says, "I think I'm going to take my life, and I know where a gun is." If that gun wasn't in the house, then that might not happen.
Thank you very much for that call, Jane. She called us in at 713-440-8870. Stepping back to our traffic stop conversation. Get my dentures in there. Joseph from Tomball, what's on your mind?
Ernie, two things. The first one is, how can you make this show nationally? This is the best show right now ever.
Oh, Joseph, I'm
you,
happy we
Joseph.
took your call. Thank you for
Yeah.
that.
All it takes is
Drive
money.
around, and I can't wait to be 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, and to listen to you guys. But to my point is, why they don't give driving license to everybody, just in case there is an accident, you know where to locate this person. And then just in case the police go and they stop that person, like they're, that legislation that they avoid right now, we need to know who's driving in our street. That way we could be safe. They emphasize on safety, but not everybody has insurance and not everybody has driving license. Thank you.
That's a good point.
Thank you for that, Joseph. It's a good point. Though I go back to the point about having requirements of how many tickets must be given out or stops must happen, I think then skews what you're looking for. It's like, Frank, every time you went to the grocery store, the rule was, Kevin says to you, you have to bring back a half gallon of milk. Whether you need it or not, you've just got to do it because that's the rule. I don't like rules like that.
Yeah, broad stroke rules.
Yeah.
We need to go at that. And the problem is with this specifically, when we're looking at, policing, we want to stray away as much as possible as any type of racial profiling. And that's essentially what was happening whenever you're like, well, you have to make these things. I do want to clarify something. I am absolutely 100% not saying that we need to have gun laws and we need to be looking at that. But I'm saying that there is research that does show that gun buyback programs are less impactful versus firearm-related policies such as safety storage laws, stricter background
but
checks,
to your point,
things like that.
I agree with you, but to your point, then if it has any impact, why have a
Why
bill?
take it away?
Why
Yeah,
take it away?
I-
Unless
right.
it's political.
I do want to.
Sounds like this guy just doesn't want the blue cities to have the power to buy
do
back
that.
guns, which
It's
I don't
more
understand.
of a political power
print it
play
out.
than real gun policy.
He can go out and say, look at my position on the Second Amendment. I don't even allow buyback programs. I'm so strong on it.
When Beto was here, I had printed out a list of 10 of the laws that got passed or the bills that got passed in the legislature, the Texas legislature, and looking at what some of these were, I think to myself, why are you wasting times on this when you could be doing that? When you talk about there are better gun enforcement policies that have bigger impacts, spend your time on that instead of going after a law that may do some good, some is better than none, until you get the golden one. But no, they're spending more time working on the smaller things. And
if you took that voucher money, you could put a cop on every school campus and help that situation.
All right. Well, are they, though? If they
you
do,
could.
then I'm in favor of it.
All right.
We want to hear from you. Give us a call, 713-440-8870.
Because we love you. All right. We're going national. Actually, we're on YouTube. You can see us all
We're global, baby.
We're worldwide.
Global.
Elon Musk can see us on Mars.
Joseph, tell everyone to go to YouTube and watch us, all your friends all across the globe. And
All right,
that'll get us there.
Greater Houston, as we know, is home to some of the state's best barbecue joints, if not the best, according to Texas Monthly's new Top 50 barbecue rankings. Houston's own Truth Barbecue, which I've been to Truth once, and I liked it. The number 9 spot amid a growing field of over 300 contenders. And then there's Brisket and Rice, Pinkerton's Barbecue, Springs Corkscrew Barbecue, and Rosemeyer Barbecue, Montgomery's Barbecue, and Jennings and Company. Barbecue also made the top 50 under the best of the rest. Look, I don't know where Rudy's Barbecue ended up on this list. You could bury me in their cream corn, and I would be happy. I go to, if you ever want to know where Frank is, he's at Damaris Barbecue every single Monday night.
Well, you should be there tonight.
Okay.
You know why?
That's my thing.
Because today is National Brisket Day.
Nice.
Really?
That ties into the
Okay,
story.
so
And by the way, Daniel Vaughn, Texas Monthly's barbecue editor, is going to be on Hello Houston next week, and I'm going to ask him, where's Rudy's and where's Damaris on your list?
there you go. But I got to say, for me, barbecue is like, I have to get really in the mood for it.
Not
like,
me.
Like
I
it's
can
like,
eat it every day.
For me, it's like a special occasion. I love it in summer, especially in the Texas heat with humidity and smelling the wood and all those things. I love it.
Do you have it
I
every
love
day?
it.
Do you have like a Chinese food or a
Like a Taco Tuesday or a spaghetti? No, I don't.
But you don't have it. If you were sentenced to prison and you had to eat the same thing every day, what would it be?
Ooh, fajitas.
Okay, that's
Mine
good.
would be
That's fair.
Mine would be pizza, but it would have to
Not
vary
champ
the variety.
burger?
You would have to make
for every
it.
day for the rest of my life. There'd be all different kinds of pizzas: a thin crust, a stuffed pizza, a deep dish, a New York style. It would move like that. How about for you, Frank? Would it be barbecue?
Barbecue.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you know what? Pulled pork, brisket,
Right, see, the same thing with
ribs,
barbecue.
chicken, even turkey. The turkey at Damaris is amazing.
Yeah, and I get the joy of judging the barbecue cook-off every year, world famous barbecue cook-off. But the reason I bring that up is because, okay, so I judge it one day, and I'm pretty barbecued out for months after that.
Yes,
really,
that's what I mean.
Because it's so much barbecue
it's
in
an
an
event
instant.
for me. It's an event for me. I want to go. I want to eat all the things. I don't want to think about calories. I want to try all the sides.
But we do it best. Listen, you go to North Carolina, it's out of a can. You go to Alabama, Mississippi, Tennessee, it's pork butt. It's gross. I know. Texas does the best barbecue in the country and the best sides.
Last thing before
Preach,
we
Frank, preach.
Before we
We're
wrap
barbecue country.
Before we wrap up talking about food, country music icon Dolly Parton is expanding her retail food line with the launch
With barbecue.
No, her frozen meals now. So you can have Dolly's
Yikes.
frozen country cooking.
Dolly.
There you go.
Yikes.
I
Dolly
can't
Parton, we love you.
imagine.
Well, you can. Just go to your local grocery store and it's in the freezer case. There you go.
You know, my college roommate owns Bubba Burger. How about that?
Well, there you go.
I don't know.
Bubba Burger.
Yeah, Bubba Burger.
Coming
He's
up.
Very rich.
I bet. Coming up on Hello Houston, the Houston Asian American Pacific Islander Film Festival, or HAAPIFEST, begins tomorrow, and we'll talk to the festival's director, co-founder, and a local filmmaker whose short film will be showcased at the festival. This is Hello Houston on News 88.7. Stay with us.
Next time on the New Yorker Radio Hour, Leslie Stahl of 60 Minutes on Donald Trump's devastating lawsuit against CBS.
I know there's going to be a settlement, and then we will hopefully still be around, turning a new page.
But you wouldn't walk away.
Depends.
Leslie Stahl, next time on the New Yorker Radio Hour.
You can hear that Sunday morning at 9 o'clock.
Your right to know what's really going on in our world depends on more than just great journalism. It depends on your participation.
Houston Public Media is funded by Houstonians for Houstonians. 80% of our budget comes directly from you, our community.
That's how trusted information stays free and accessible. No ads, no shareholders, just clear and careful reporting.
Protect your right to stay informed by visiting houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 888-909-0887.
When Israeli author Etgar Keret read his manuscript on October 6th, 2023, he was worried it was too dark. But when he came back to the collection of short stories months later, his country now plunged into a brutal war.
Suddenly I understood what it was about. It was how to stay human in human times.
I'm Mary Louise Kelly. That conversation on the next All Things Considered from NPR News.
It's coming up this afternoon at 3 o'clock.
Support comes from John Moore, helping with plumbing, electrical, and air conditioning repairs, including out-of-warranty units since 1965. Details at 730-2525 or at johnmooreservices.com.
Support comes from Rice University's Baker Institute, where you can hear world leaders from presidents to prime ministers right here in Houston, with access to conversations on issues affecting the world. More at bakerinstitute.org/membership.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on any of today's topics, call 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now here's Ernie Manouse, Celestia Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
The Houston Asian American Pacific Islander Film Festival, or HAAPIFEST, is an immersive multi-day celebration of film, music, and art focused on the AAPI community. Founded in 2004 by OCA Greater Houston, the film festival is created to highlight and celebrate AAPI artists, culture, as well as to share the AAPI experience with the Greater Houston area. This year's HAAPIFEST begins tomorrow, May 30th, and runs through Sunday, June 15th. Joining us now to tell us more about HAAPIFEST
HAAPIFEST is Tengah Nguyen, the director of HAAPIFEST, Cecilia Pham, co-founder of HAAPIFEST, and Houston filmmaker Mỹ Trinh, who's the director of the short film It Is Now Tomorrow. Thank you all for joining us today on Hello Houston. Welcome.
Thank you for having us.
On a sunny day. It was miserable yesterday.
Yes.
So how did HAAPIFEST start? How did it come about?
Well, it started, like you said, Celeste, in 2004. We saw a need. We are such a huge, diverse community here in Houston, and we didn't really see film festival or cultural events that were really big, that really highlighted the AAPI community. And we also wanted to be able to have a platform that was fun and engaging, that what we consider edutainment, right? To teach folks about our culture, that it is very diverse. Our stories are just like your stories, no matter what part of the world you come from. And the best way to do that is through films. And it was a free screening, as always. And most of our screenings are still free till this day. And I can tell you, Celeste, we started begging for spaces, going to community centers and parks and churches like, hey, can we screen here for free? And we'd set up our little laptop and our little screens, and maybe there would be like 4 or 5 of us. And it was very much a very starting a passion, right? And trying to just get that free screening out to the community just to share.
And so now, 21 years later,
right? Gosh,
how has HAAPIFEST evolved, and what have y'all seen the Houston landscape evolve into?
Well, number one, we have budget finally.
Finally!
Yay, that's a big one.
All it takes is money.
Right.
Congratulations.
Right.
That's not easy.
Yeah, Frank, it was wonderful to do it as grassroots, but we all did it for free on the weekends.
Yeah.
We didn't get paid for it. Now we can afford to have paid staff. We can afford to bring in film directors and producers and actors and actresses, and really have a more engaging film festival, right? And we've added to it, right? Beyond films, we do music, we do art, and this year, which Tengah will talk a little bit more about, we're actually closing out the festival with a comedy showcase. Isn't that great?
That's fun.
Before we get to the comedy showcase and get into the programs and the individual films, I'm kind of curious, and Tengah, maybe you can address this. I would think it's an easier sell to promote this within the Asian American community, but I would think the goal of this kind of a festival is to branch out beyond that and to bring in the whole of Houston. How do you balance that?
Sure. This year we've showcased, we are showcasing over 10 ethnicity films, showcasing films over 10 ethnicities. We have Vietnamese films, Chinese films, Taiwanese films, Indian, Pakistani, and so just to mention a few. And we just want to keep our programming as diverse as possible. It's been kind of it's all about like marketing, getting the right films to the right community. So it's more like Cecilia said, if people want to learn more about our community, then these types of films are the right films.
But do you focus more toward different aspects of the Asian American community when you do your marketing, or are you trying to step beyond that now and say, look at us, world, come on in here?
Sure, of course we do. We do try to work on that as well, to invite more of the community out. And this is one of the reasons why we have our film festival in the middle of Asia Town, so that we can welcome other communities to come to our side of town, enjoy the festival, and it's not just it's not just at the River Oaks Theater or at AMC, at theaters like that. We invite people to come to our side of town, just not to enjoy the festival, but to enjoy the other things that are going around.
Well, that was my question, because if you're just listening to us on radio, HAAPIFEST is HAAPI Fest. So that's what Houston Asian American and Pacific Island Festival. All right. So you mentioned it's on in a different part of town. Mm-hmm. So where exactly is it? We got the dates, but is it a 9 to 6 kind of thing every day? And where exactly are you holding this?
Sure. We are holding HAAPIFEST at the Doubletree Hilton, right off of West Park and the Beltway. And that's just a few streets away from Asia Town, where Downton Bel Air, which is where the main Asia Town is, where you have all of the ethnicity foods and lots of
Is
things
it going
going
to the
on.
parking lot or is it in the hotel?
Oh, it's actually in the hotel. The dates and the time is Friday. Our opening night is this Friday from 6 to 10, and then this Saturday from 10 to 11 a.m. to 10 p.m.
Okay.
And then, the more the schedule is online.
Online. So what is that? HAAPIFEST.org?
HAAPIFEST.org.
But that's why I said the spelling.
Yeah. HAAPIFEST.org.
And you're showing films. Let's get to
Now,
our
Mai,
filmmaker.
talk to us a little bit about It Is Now Tomorrow, and what does it mean to be a part of this festival?
It Is Now Tomorrow is a Vietnamese narrative. It follows Junie, who is struggling with her own grief, and in this film, she reunites with her two sisters in their childhood home on their mother's death anniversary. And so it's pretty intense, and to have this film premiere at Happy feels right. And it, yeah.
And so, Mai, where did you find your inspiration to be the director and be a part of this film? Where did you find that inspiration?
This film, to me, serves a reflection of my own grief and how or at least my understanding of it now. But it really is just a way for me to preserve how I feel about my grieving. Yeah.
Is the film in Vietnamese?
It is, yeah, parts of it, yeah, which is something new, and I'm very excited for everyone to
Well, just to add a little bit, I think this year we decided to do something different with the festival. We have a theme to it. The first weekend is mainly about honoring those that have paved the way. All the films that we have showcased during that time, like Cecilia said, this festival has been around a long time, just to honor a lot of the artists that have been around in the films. We have an Anime Wong film that is screening and a book talk about Anime Wong, one of the first Chinese-American actresses in Hollywood. We have a film about C.K. Yang and Rayford Johnson, the decathletes around the 1960s Olympics. So films like that. And then the second weekend is more like moving forward. How do we move forward with the landscape that we have now with the AAPI community? And Trin's film is screening June 7th, the second weekend at 4 p.m. So part of our Texas filmmakers block. So that's something extra that we add. That is cool. Because filmmakers always think about, when you think about films, it's all about out Los Angeles, but Texas has something to offer as well.
Are most of the films that you show in a different language than English?
No, it's actually mostly in English. And it's just Trin's film has some Vietnamese in it, but it's not an entirely Vietnamese film. So,
Cecilia, I'm curious, the landscape of the films that you're looking at and choosing from, and you've been at this as many years, 21 years now.
Don't count.
Yeah, I'm curious what you've seen changed in the stories and the issues that are coming up, especially after we went through the COVID period, where there was a lot of negativity facing your community and coming back from. Did you see that changed in what the filmmakers were trying to say and tell us? And what did you learn from that?
Well, I definitely, starting it in 2004, we showed a lot more documentaries, right? So it was really like a history lesson. We started out with trying to do edutainment in the history, in the landscape of how AAPI has really contributed to this wonderful tapestry we call America. And then we moved from a lot of those documentary stories and daily life stories to more features. And then, of course, when COVID hit and we had a lot of AAPI hate, a lot of those films then started pivoting back to the documentary side, to really the advocacy side. A lot of Asian filmmakers, they feel like if they do a lot of advocacy films, there's not going to be a lot of film screening interest, right? So they do a lot of features that are more fun and lighthearted and comedic. And we saw that pivot where it got a little bit more serious. And a lot more filmmakers were willing to jump and tackle those really hard issues and those questions and really bring to light that we have a voice, and please listen to our voice, and please understand that we are just like you, and that Asian hate shouldn't be what it is. It is not something that should separate us, right? And look at it from the civil rights look at it from the workers, when the Hispanic workers had their own rights for working farms and plantations and things like that in California. Those are all the same concerns and issues we all share. And we can't go back. We need to go be together and move forward.
And speaking of moving forward, yesterday we had Paul Gore from the Asian Chamber of Commerce Houston talking about economic impacts the Asian community has on businesses here in Houston. Cecilia, what is the landscape when we're looking at today for Asian representation in entertainment?
Well, I am so happy to see a lot more representation.
Yeah.
I can tell you, not aging myself like Frank.
21 years already.
Right.
We heard.
I couldn't turn on it.
I heard you say, not Asian myself. I'm like, you're not Asian? Hey, that's the problem with aging.
Yeah, aging. Yes, aging. Well, I never turned on television and said, wow, that's me. Right? That's a commercial that has me in it.
Right.
Selling something as basic like Dove soap, right? I see that now. That was not in existence for me growing up. It was very narrow. It was very kind of like the comedic side. We were always the fall guy for funny films or the siren for the women's side. And it was never anything that had a full tapestry of what we are as humans, right? Like, I now can see myself in a Dove commercial, which is, I think, wonderful. And I can see myself selling insurance. It's funny, right? I see an insurance commercial and there's an Asian American in there. So there's definitely a lot more diversity. The internet has changed. We can stream and we can YouTube anything we want specifically to what we are interested in seeing. So I so envy the kids these days that have that choice and that selection that I did not grow up seeing. And so our dreams can be broader and be more attainable in our minds.
To your point, and this is sort of on the same subject, because I was adopted, and adopted kids, and a lot of Asian kids are adopted and brought to America. And an adopted kid always wants to know, where did I get my looks?
Right.
Why do I have my blue eyes? Who do I look like? And so in that same vein, when we see commercials on TV or we see movies and we don't see anybody that looks like me, it's very sad and it's very lonely, and internally. It's like, why does nobody ever look like me? And so I see your point, maybe on a more personal level.
Does it change the focus of the festival the more exposure the Asian community is having out there in general media? Then does that allow you an opportunity to go somewhere else with what you're presenting and how you curate?
Well, I definitely know that it gives us broader audiences because now they're like, oh, gosh, Asian American specific films can be just as funny and entertaining. And, it doesn't have to be very, silly or not be highly produced, right? A lot of people have a vision of, oh, it's not going to have that big budget that Hollywood makes, for those really multi-million-dollar films. But we've got some wonderful films that you watch it and you're like, wow, this is right up there.
For people who don't go to festivals, it's very important you realize that it's not just blockbusters where stories are being told, where experiences are being shared, and the opportunity to have these film festivals, and we have a vast majority of them throughout the city, and I'm happy about this as well. It gives you a chance to see new art and fresh art and be part of something.
Tengah, what are you most excited about this year as the director of HAAPIFEST about this festival?
Well, I'm very excited to share the whole program with everyone, to be honest. I mean, we are showcasing over 100 films, 100 to 130 between our in-person and online platform. I'm excited to bring all the directors and the producers and some of the cast here to meet everyone. And of course, lastly, there's a film, the last film, the closing night film is called The Empathizer. It is about a Vietnamese American going back to Vietnam, discovering his roots and his identity. I'm Vietnamese, but I'm American. But when showcasing how when he goes back to Vietnam, he's technically an outsider because he didn't grow up there. And it stirs up a few feelings, but he brings comedy to it, to how he's feeling, and bring a lightheartedness and of self-discovery. And after that, we will have a comedy showcase. The director happens to be a comedian along with his friends as well. So we're bringing the whole crew, and there's going to be a comedy showcase that they're going to show us.
Is that all film? Do you have a food? Ernie likes a food cart. Is Is there any food carts or any?
There are some happy hours. We call it happy hour, like HAAPI.
That's my yes. That, you got me.
We
You
have
had me at that.
you can come by. So we have happy hours. So it gives our audience. So what's different, really different about our festival is that we create a space for our directors, producers, and filmmakers, everyone behind the scenes, to just connect with the local community. And if you come during our happy hours, then you can actually talk to the directors, talk to Trin. How did she come up with this film? How long did it take? You know, like her self-discovery behind it, or just creative discovery. I think those types of questions where you can build a relationship with the filmmakers, and we also allow the filmmakers to connect with other filmmakers in case they wanted to work on a future project together. I think that's our biggest purpose.
If you need a popcorn machine, I know a guy that has one. Is this Trin, is this your first film to make, or what's your catalog?
This is my first directorial debut.
Wow. Congratulations!
Thank you.
Nice.
That is very
Well, that's
exciting.
exciting. Are you a little nervous?
I am so nervous in a good way.
Great. So, can children come? Is this a family-friendly event?
Yes, this children can come. But the first film is actually our opening night film. Showcases it's really a family-oriented film. It's called A Third Act. It's about a Japanese American paying tribute to his father, Robert Nakamura, which is also known as the godfather of Asian American media in California. And it follows his dad, him, and actually his son is in the movie as well. And his son was touring with him to all of these film festivals as well. And this film was a award-winning film at Sundance.
My daughter is in 3rd grade, and she was very excited to come home. And she said, "Mommy, do you know what AAPI stands for?" And she told me, and I said, "Very good, Evelyn." And so I think it is awesome that you guys are doing this and continue to bring
congratulations.
Yes, congratulations.
And now you're funded.
That's amazing.
I know. And, what's great, even though we are funded, we keep pretty much 90% of it still free.
But no.
Yeah.
But I think we have to.
Hold on a second.
We wanted to say thanks to Houston Arts Alliance for funding us and helping us. But we used to be a free festival, and we have other screenings that are free outside of HAAPIFEST. But the main festival dates are ticketed. So, and then we have community partners.
Good.
So, yeah.
Excellent.
All right.
Thanks.
Well, good luck.
Nguyen
thank
is
you.
the director of HAAPIFEST. Cecilia Pham is the co-founder of HAAPIFEST, and Houston filmmaker Mỹ Trinh is the director of the short film It Is Now Tomorrow. Thank you all for joining us today on Hello Houston.
And bring the family. It is family friendly.
Yes, and HAAPIFEST begins tomorrow, May 30th, and runs through Sunday, June 15th. Coming up after the break, we'll dive into our weekly current obsessions, so be sure to send them our way. Stay with us as Hello Houston continues.
Imagine two friends getting together.
So what's happening in Congress?
Well, this is something that is going to be tough to defend in an election year. And that's assuming it even passes, which it might not.
Imagine you could listen in.
And then what about the Senate? The bills are just rocketing out of the chamber.
Have they gone too far? The House might say, well, wait a minute.
Well, you can. Party Politics with Brandon Rottinghouse and Geronimo Cortina. Fridays at 7:30 p.m. on News 88.7, at 8 on TV8, and on your favorite podcast platforms.
This week on It's Been a Minute, buy now, pay later services are an easy way to get cheap credit, but they may come with a cost.
Tech has been looking to disrupt the credit score industry.
And on Wildcard, actor Jonathan Groff talks about learning to take criticism.
The 7-year-old that feels like they're so good at playing the piano, but they're not.
That's on Wildcard, and It's Been a Minute from NPR.
You can hear that Saturday night at 6.
A few days after a plane crashed into a helicopter over the Potomac, Joe Ellis's phone blew up.
I woke up to text messages from people saying I was flying the helicopter.
She let it go until she realized she was being attacked for being trans.
My life is forever different now because of this.
How a military pilot becomes part of a fight over DEI on the next Reveal.
You can hear it Saturday afternoon at 2 o'clock.
Houston Public Media, in partnership with Texas Southern University, brings to you The Vibe. R&B, hip-hop, and neo-soul. Music that resonates with all ages. The Vibe on 88.7 HD3 and on the Houston Public Media app.
Support comes from Scan Health Plan, a not-for-profit Medicare Advantage plan that has been dedicated to the health and independence of their members since 1977. More information at scanhealthplan.com.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on any of today's topics, call 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now back to Ernie Manouse, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
So if you're watching us on YouTube, you saw that we were chatting away with our HAAPIFEST guest. And one of them was the director. Mai Trin is the director of the short film, It Is Now Tomorrow. And she was just telling me that the entire film was filmed right here in Houston.
Oh, wonderful.
I think that is so cool. Yes, and she's a Houston filmmaker. I love to see that. I absolutely love to see that.
That was a nice segment. That was really interesting.
Yes, and now it's time to dive into our altogether now
current obsessions.
This is a rundown of the things that we are currently taking up all of our time. A current obsession is that TV show you got to run home to continue. It's that song that you hit repeat on Spotify. It is the audio book that makes you drive an extra mile, perhaps in your Volvo. You get the idea.
Celeste is obsessed with things.
Do you have a Volvo?
Okay, so Ernie, Frank, and I's obsession for this week, we will tell you guys in a second, but you can tell us yours by giving us a call at 713-440-8870. One of the top trending items right now on X is the casting announcement for Harry, Ron, and Hermione in the upcoming HBO Harry Potter series. Again,
which is very interesting.
It is. You can give us a call and share yours. You can also text us at 713-440-8870.
You know, I do want to say, when you mentioned Harry Potter, the first thing I think of is that, and I guess this is the question to pose to you folks and you listening, can you separate the creators and the artists from the art that they create? Because there's been a lot of concern about the author of Harry Potter and her political stances, and yet HBO is moving ahead with this new series. So do you feel the behavior of the creators of art should be interpreting how you view their art?
I don't think so, especially when it's geared toward children.
Okay.
You know, I mean, I didn't even know who Harry Potter was till my nephew a long time ago said something. I mean, I've never read a Harry Potter book. I've seen, I think, 2, maybe 3 of the movies. There are lots of them. And then
there are lots of
them? I have no
Yeah,
intention of seeing this one. This doesn't interest me at all. But I did think it was interesting that it's a very diverse casting. With Hermione is a girl of color. I'm not sure what her heritage is, but she almost looks like she might be Indian or Pakistani.
What was interesting was what our last guests were talking about, is seeing your stories on TV, actually seeing yourself represented.
Right.
And I think that plays into this, and to open up the Harry Potter world to a broader spectrum of individuals is a good move.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll have fun with it.
Current obsession. My current obsession, I'm just going to say it. Nobody's asking me about it, but I'm going to say it. Gardening.
She's been saying it all day.
I'm still obsessed with gardening. I've said this already. Send me your tips and your tricks. I do not have a green thumb. I cannot keep anything alive except for my 4-year-old and my 9-year-old. And
then your job is done.
She's got Miss Gladys that helps keep them alive.
Shh, don't tell my secrets. And
what are you gardening?
So
herbs,
I
flowers.
am great question, Frank. I am the garden chair for my daughter's elementary school, and they have flower beds and they have garden. So I walk to the school. It's in our neighborhood. And it's a whole thing, guys. I am really putting myself out there because I have to now keep and harvest vegetables and teach children how to garden.
Oh.
So Celeste would like you to teach her how to do it so she can teach them. If you've got any tips, please send them our way for Celeste.
But Frank, tell them what you were telling me.
Well,
About
gardening is the number. I think it's the number one hobby in America. If you look at Google searches.
See, I'm with
and
you.
And then genealogy second.
Like the American people.
So you can look at your roots and then look at your roots.
I'm with them.
Speaking of
every
roots, I see my
day.
roots need to get there.
I'm getting mine fixed tomorrow. So, I had a segment when I worked in Roanoke, Virginia as a weatherman, and I created it. It was called Growing It. I think they still have it. I think it has caps, baseball caps now, but Growing It, and I got the extension agent, and every week we did a 30-minute or 30 show on growing something. And he would tell me how to grow a rose bush or grow a cucumber or grow whatever. And then he put a garden in my backyard. I grew all these vegetables. I know.
I am
so what
I'm
are you growing
fascinated,
now?
Frank. So you need to come.
Oh God,
Give
I was bored silly. I couldn't care less about gardening.
To me, it's
why
about
garden when you have a grocery store 10 feet away?
There's
it's
the
about
right attitude,
putting
Frank.
your hands into the soil.
I know.
Okay, Mother Nature. Okay, what is your current obsession, Frank?
You know what? Well, I love Suits.
Yes,
like
okay.
the show Suits.
The show
Suits.
Not
And
just wearing them?
I watch Suits every time I travel. I download it and I can watch 3 or 4 episodes on my iPad. I love Suits. And now I became obsessed with the locations of Suits, like these restaurants they go to, and where are they, and where's the exact location?
Now it was shot in Canada.
It was shot in Toronto, so it kind of busted my suit bubble.
Oh, Toronto's fabulous. Go visit.
I've never been to Canada.
But it's supposed to be set in New York. It just was it was filmed.
So many things.
And so but it is kind of an obsession to say, okay, this is the building that they used that was supposed to look like the Ritz-Carlton, or supposed to look like the Carlyle, or supposed to look like their office building in New York. That's actually a very famous place in Toronto. And all the restaurants, a lot of whom have closed. They've closed because of COVID, or they've remodeled because they were sick of people like me trying to find them. but there are websites dedicated to this.
This isn't my obsession, but I am obsessed with locations, film and TV locations, and seeing the real things. And so, I mean, I've gone to some amazing ones. I've gone to the house that was the house for the Mary Tyler Moore show, the outside house that Mary lived in.
Where was it?
Minneapolis.
It is in Minneapolis.
Yeah, it's there, and it's very funny because when we went to see it, there was a for sale sign on the front lawn, and we called the real estate agent, and we got walked through the house, and I ran a video.
You pretended to be a potential buyer.
I opened up there. I told her the truth. And so we filmed.
Ernie, we know what you did.
You're one of
We filmed
those.
the entire tour.
I love
inside.
Lucy, and she loves me.
We filmed the entire inside of the house, and when you get to the 3rd floor, which is Mary's apartment, there's a sign, and I was live streaming it on Facebook. It's still on my Facebook page, and there was a sign that says, "No videotaping allowed in the house." But it was on the 3rd floor. We'd been filming the entire house by the time we saw the sign. They should put it at the bottom.
That's hysterical.
But anyway, it's quite amazing.
So,
my real obsession, though. Oh, did I bore you with that?
I thought it was interesting.
Okay,
my
go
real
ahead.
obsession right now is Hacks. The TV
Oh,
series
you
with
love
Gene
Hacks.
Smart. I love it. And
She's
today
brilliant.
is
She's
the final,
brilliant. Did
final
she win?
episode
Did
of
she
fourth-
win
Oh
the-
yeah, every year.
Yeah.
Final episode of the 4th season, not the final season. I misspoke there. So that's today. It's being released. I'm very much looking forward to it. This last season had them doing a talk show, so I've been uniquely interested in that.
Clearly.
And what releases tonight?
And just like that.
I love it.
And we did get a text, a current obsession says, Dungeon Crawler, Carl, currently driving more to listen to my audiobook.
I don't understand what that means at all.
I don't know.
Okay, I have a friend. I want to mention this.
Hold on one second. Deal Hunter says, I don't recall the last time I saw a Volvo.
I see
Okay,
him.
Deal Hunter, it's an inside joke between Ernie and I.
Okay.
If you send me an email, I'll tell you about it.
So my friend Karen Winston,
Yeah.
your cousin through like 17 marriages.
Yes.
I'm not sure how you are related to her, but she's my neighbor. And her obsession, we were talking about this at dinner the other night, because I said, my obsession. She said hers is all these videos of sea turtles with barnacles, and they get the barnacles off. These are like, I said it's like Dr. Pimple Popper for sea turtles.
Yes, it's like an ASMR thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the sea turtles can get them off themselves by rubbing like against coral reefs to get the barnacles removed, or there are groups that will remove the barnacles. But it's a really, and she sent me a video, and it might be my next week's obsession. I'm thinking it might be.
Well,
but
don't tell us.
I don't know if anybody else
You
has
already
seen this.
told us.
Well, I'm not saying it's going to be.
Locations are going to be my next week because
Well,
I got some good stories about this.
Speaking of locations, Fritz Goldman on YouTube says, I grew up just down the street from the Risky Business House in Highland Park, Illinois.
It is so next week on Current Obsessions. Let's all talk about locations you've gone to visit, those things that, you go to a city and you want to see them.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about that.
And do they meet the level of expectation?
Or how surprised you are when you see what they really are. Like I've been to the Cheers bar in Boston, but it wasn't ever shot there, but the one they used as the inspiration for making the series.
I dated a girl whose home was used for Terms of Endearment. And we would watch Terms of Endearment, and she would say, "That's a fake shrub. That's not really our tree."
I got a story about her, too. We'll have to talk. Next week, we'll do it.
So, and we also got a comment here talking about our topic about J.K. Rowling. Neil Ellis Orts says, the thing about J.K. Rowling is that she is on record as seeing support for her IP, as support for her transphobia, so I cannot support her work.
Interesting.
At the same time, I have concern for the young actors taking roles in this reboot and any backlash at them. I want them to be protected.
Good point.
I love your obsessions and your comments. Keep them coming.
Tomorrow's Friday.
We do
Tomorrow's
obsessions
Friday.
every week, so send them to us at talk@hellohouston.org and just put obsession in the tagline. We'll hold on to them until we do our next session.
Because we're obsessed with your obsessions. And that brings us to the end of our show. We want to thank you for listening, chatting, calling, commenting to Hello Houston. We'll be back tomorrow with more conversations. This is News 88.7.
Thanks for listening to Hello Houston. Join us every Monday through Friday from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. to talk all things Houston. The Hello Houston production team includes Garrett Bowman, William Menjivar, Jen Altide, Todd Holslander, and Jim Kovacic. For the latest in local news, subscribe to the Hello Houston daily newsletter at HoustonPublicMedia.org. Hello Houston is a production of Houston Public Media. The opinions expressed by the guests of this program are solely their own and do not represent the views of management, staff, or underwriters of Houston Public Media. This is News 88.7.
Donations come in many forms: a monthly membership, a one-time gift, and that extra vehicle you no longer need. We take any kind of vehicle in any condition. Learn more at HoustonPublicMedia.org/cars. And thank you.
Mostly